Hey friends, so the last video I made had some strange audio clipping issues. I'm still not entirely sure why that was, but I think it was a CPU thing. I think there were too many things going on my MacBook while I was recording, and so this time what I've done is I have opened up the system manager or whatever and force quit everything, especially Chrome, and then I turned off my Wi-Fi. So I'm doing this kind of the only thing running on my Mac right now is my photo booth, which is how I'm recording this right now. And is my eye weird? Anyway, I'm gonna ad-lib today about project management. I was kind of thinking of doing something about national service in Singapore, but military experience. But I think I don't really feel like doing that tonight. So let's just talk about projects and project management. So I did a video earlier about motivation and how I think about motivation, and I think I may have talked a little bit about project management in that video, but I didn't really go into a lot of detail. And so let's go into more detail now. I will start by saying that I am not a natural at project management. I wouldn't even say that I'm particularly good at it. I just learned. I'm self-taught. I taught myself to do it in a way that kind of works for me. And for some backstory, I was a very ADHD-esque child. I was very easily distracted, very bad at following schedules. I was probably even a little bit traumatized by timetables at school. And because I didn't like my school timetables, I associated them with like unpleasantness, and I just kind of was averse to them altogether, so much so that when it kind of came time for me, when the time came for me to be independent in life and pick my own schedules and so on, I've just never really been able to do it. Even today, I'm 29 years old and I don't think I'm very good at managing my schedule, and I kind of function in spite of it. I have a tweet that I thought was moderately popular, which is that, it's actually a whole thread, and I'll link to it below. But off the top of my head, I said that apart from kind of some big picture basics like language, which you learn by interacting with other people, and kind of basic social skills, which you also kind of learn by interacting with other people, and a bunch of things like that, I think the most important thing to learn in life is project management, because anything worth learning, anything worth doing that's substantial can be framed as a project, and developing any skill to do anything else. So learning how to cook, learning how to write, learning how to learn, all of those things, because they are substantial efforts, they all end up becoming projects. And how you manage those projects will affect how you manage anything else, right? And that's something I feel has tremendous variance, in the sense that some people spend their whole lives kind of just, they might be smart, they might be not that smart, but like that's almost not really the important variable. The important variable is how effective they are at project management. And if you're good at it, you can build cathedrals and rocket ships. And if you're bad at it, you end up kind of just pissing away your whole life, right? Which is quite... I remember when I posted that tweet, somebody DM'd me to say that tweet made them depressed, which I felt pretty bad about, which wasn't my intention at all. I was hoping that it would have kind of a motivating effect, I hope. I never want to make people feel bad with my tweets or my videos or anything, but sometimes it happens. Sometimes the truth is uncomfortable, or I'm not gonna claim that I'm some kind of arbiter of truth, but sometimes somebody can say something that frames something for you in a way that makes you uncomfortable. I'm sorry that that's the case, but onwards, right? Let's try and compassionately try to make some progress. All right, so let me try and think about the best projects I've had. I would say the major projects in my life, or let's just start with the most legible ones, the most visible ones. So around 2012, when I was done with my military service and I had a few months to kind of dick around, I told my parents that I was planning to retake my A levels, which means that I was gonna kind of go like study for my A levels and then potentially go to university. That's what I told them. That was my cover story, and I believed it myself a little bit. During that time, I was also trying to do a bunch of different things. I believe I did stand up a little bit. I wrote as much as I could on my blog. But at some point, the interesting project that I came up with was this idea that I wanted to write 1,000,000 words. And I think up until that point, that was the most interesting, compelling, intimidating project that I had conceived of. That's very well defined, and I think that's a very, very critical thing about project management. You have to define your project clearly, and it has to be definite, it has to be observable, it has to be clear. And then so in 2012 I decided that I wanted to write 1,000,000 words, and I was going to get started, and I was planning to do 1,000 sets of 1,000 words. I felt like, that sounds achievable. It sounds like, if you do one a day, you'll be done in 3.5 years maybe. And that was the plan, right? It's now 2020. I'm still not done. Last I checked, I'm at 781. So I've done 781 sets of 1,000 words. So I've written at least 780,000 words. I tend to exceed the limit sometimes. Sometimes I exceed by quite a lot. So I've written easily over 800,000 words, maybe 1,000,000 words. So the million word goal is entirely within the context of the project. So I'm not counting words that I write on my main blog. I'm not counting words that I write in my tweets. So I've definitely exceeded 1,000,000 words in writing altogether. But I'm really trying to do this project where I write 1,000,000 words inside the frame of this project. And it has been amazing for me. So my thinking was like this. I know that I want to become a good writer in life. I'm willing to spend my whole life working on this for, even if the world never quite recognizes me for it, even if I never make money for it. It's just, I love books, I love writing, I love great writers, and I would like to, participate in that process. I would like to be invited in a way into those halls of the halls of fame, I guess. I mean, it's not about fame, it's just about being as good. It's a thing that a human can do, become really good at something. I used to play music in bands, and I like music. I still play music. But when I encounter, the best musicians on the planet playing music, I think, holy shit, that's a level of proficiency and intuition and just what they're doing seems almost alien to me. I can kind of imagine what it would be like to have that level of fingertip, brain to finger connection straight to the instrument. I can imagine what it would be like, but when I witness how other people practice and how thorough they are with their practice, it just feels pretty straightforward to me to say that that's not me. I'm never going to be a world-class musician because I don't have that kind of patience. I don't have that kind of persistence. I love music, but I don't love it that much. Not as much as when I encounter a musician who really, really, really loves music, who, wakes up in the morning and plays their instrument, that kind of really intense love. I could see myself maybe cultivating it down the line, but the point is I realized that the thing that I have that relationship with the most in life is words, right? So, making these videos, I still kind of frame it as, so my goal this year is to get good at YouTube and to make lots and lots of YouTube videos and get good at talking on camera, which I think I am getting better at. And yet, even then, I still kind of frame this as training my communication skills, training my thinking skills so that I can become a better writer. Does that make sense? So it's like, at some point, it just became clear for me that writing is the thing, the core skill set that I want to invest in for 70 years. And once I know that to be true, and I believe that to be true, then it's kind of a no-brainer to be like, all right, I'm going to write 1,000,000 words, probably 10 million words over my lifetime, maybe 20 million words. I'm not sure what a realistic goal is in total, in aggregate, but if you check out people like Asimov, I think they wrote maybe over 100 novels or something. I'm not sure about the specifics, but just if you want to be the best in the world, like you have to, volume is a part of it. You have to have a large volume of writing. So I started that project, and like the first 20 or so word vomits, I call them, the first 20 or so essays, they were really, really rambly and unedited. I mean, they're still unedited, but they were really incoherent and all over the place, and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what the best practices were. I was just doing. I was just getting stuff out of my system. It was crappy, it was incoherent, but I did it anyway. And then I started work in 2013 in February, and so I didn't have as much time to do word vomits every single day, but I tried. And there were days where, there were weeks where I would write every day, and sometimes there were days where I would write multiple word vomits. I think my record in a single day was about 15. So there was once a day where I wrote 15,000 words in my word vomit project. And how I approach that is, so I have my own internal standards, right? So hypothetically, if you just want to write 1,000,000 words and there's no standard, you could just type in the same words over and over again. But that doesn't feel, I'm the boss of the project. I'm the customer. I get to decide what is good enough for me. And I have sometimes written a word vomit or attempted to write a word vomit and then didn't really like it, and so I deleted it and didn't use it. So it's very arbitrary. I get to decide. It's dictated by my taste, and I'm going to make a separate video about taste itself, because I think that the point of doing creative work is to gratify your taste. It has to, it doesn't have to meet your taste perfectly, but it has to be a valiant attempt. It's like going to work out. You want to push yourself until you get tired, right? You want to push yourself until you break a sweat. Like you feel like, oh, that was an attempt. Like it doesn't necessarily mean that every single workout has to like be perfect and be, you feel all your endorphins and everything and you're going amazing. But you want to sustain a habit, and you want to make it a practice, and you want to keep doing it. So and if you go and look through my word vomits, you'll find that there are thresholds and milestones that I meet along the way. So I do feel like every 100,000 words or so, I'm effectively a whole different writer. Like I've crossed, having done that much work and processed it and reviewed it a little bit. I still haven't reviewed it as much as I would like, but having done that much work, I learn all these things that are not obvious. I learn, how to manage information. I learn how to do paragraphs. I learn how to, even without explicitly planning what I'm going to write, I just have this subconscious sense of structure that's kind of very loose and very... I learned that, you shouldn't do one word vomit with like 3 different ideas, because you can't include 3 different ideas in the title. And if you do that, then, it just as one of the things that happens when you do a large project and you have hundreds of pieces, like hundreds of notes or hundreds of whatever, you then find that you want each note to be about one thing. And because again, if it's about 2 different things, it should be 2 separate notes, so that you can access each note separately, right? And so over the years, right, my titles have gotten more evocative. I found that it's useful to frame titles in terms of directives, meaning do this, don't do that, beware of this, consider that, because when there's an action like a directive, which is what I call it, I then remember just by reading the directive. So I have an essay called Consider the Speedrunners. And speedrunners are people who play video games trying to get through to the end as quickly as possible. And the point of the whole 1,000-word essay about Consider the Speedrunners is, when you watch... So I used to play a video game called Diablo 2, right? Like it's a pretty great game. And, it took me weeks, months to complete the game at a casual pace. And I watched a guy complete it in like 2.5 hours. And it's fascinating because to do that, he has to understand the game at a very, very deep level. He has to know what he's looking out for. He has to know what are the highest reward points in the game, meaning what monsters give the most experience points, how he's going to farm the best weapons, so he would fight the same boss over and over again to get a lot of experience, and to farm for a weapon or a rune that he knows that he wants, because that will get him it will make him much more powerful much earlier on, rather than relying on pure chance, which is what I used to do, which is what casual players do. And so the point of Consider the Speedrunners, right, that essay, the point of that essay is to remind me that when I'm going to play a game, if the game is important to me and I want to be good at it, I should consider and study and examine the speedrunners. So who are the people who are really good at the game, have kind of dissected it down to the bare essentials. What are the most critical things about that game that make all of the difference? Because, you know, if you're going to score 90% of your points in 10% of the game, then you should spend most of your attention on that 10% of the game, rather than, you know, kind of get into it by chance. Like, I'm sure in sports and whatever, that's the same thing, right? Like, if you find that, oh, most goals are scored when this happens, like, you want to know the precise things about the game that influence winning or losing. And which isn't to say that, you know, life is about winning or losing, but like, just consider the speedrunners, right? So that, and that's one essay. I have hundreds of these. I have one called Stop Searching for Truths in Boxes, right? Which is a whole other, and this video isn't about the specifics of my word vomit project. It's about project management in general. So the point is, this 1,000 word vomit project, this project to write 1,000,000 words, it's taken me much longer than I've intended, but I have been learning about myself while I've been doing it. My progress through this project has been concrete and visible and clear. So even now, even though I haven't written a word vomit in, I think, about 30 days, I still have confidence that I'm going to finish the project eventually, because I've spent 8 years on it already. And I am still excited to see who I will become as a writer and as a person at 800,000, at 900,000, and at 1,000,000 words, right? And that has given me this incredible sense of self-confidence, the sense of lightness, a sense of I can do what I set my mind to. And it's because the goal is so concrete. You know, I have tried things like do something every day, and I always end up failing at that because I'm so ADHD that, you know, sometimes I wake up and then before I know it, it's bedtime, and like I don't know what I did all day. Usually I'm just sitting online doing and like posting on the tweeting or whatnot. So I can't really do projects that are do X every day indefinitely. Like, that's just depressing for me. So what works for me is to have do X Y number of times, right? So what happened was, having made such good progress on my 1,000 word vomits, I decided that, so I have a pull-up bar in my other room, which it's effectively my gym. I have like a weight rack. You know, I got it because I wanted to teach myself how to do squats, and like, it's embarrassing how little I work out considering that I have a gym in my house, or like a micro gym in my house. But, you know, and one of the things I can do is do pull-ups. And I was pretty embarrassed about the fact that I could, like a couple of years ago, I could no longer really do pull-ups. I could do maybe 1 or 2 with like pretty bad form. When I was in the military, I used to be able to do like 10, 12, 14 maybe. And I was like 20 kg lighter than, what's 20 kg? It's like times 2.2. I was 44 pounds lighter then. And so it's just harder for me to do pull-ups with more weight. And you know, I lost strength along the way. And so I decided to do a project for 2019, which was to do 1,000 pull-ups. So, you know, if I was going to do 1 pull-up a day, or like 1 pull-up 3 times a day, it didn't matter how I did it. I just had to do it and just keep track of it. So I actually have an Instagram. You can check it out if you want. Instagram.com/1000.pullups. I kept track, like I uploaded every single video to Instagram until about, I think, 800 or so, and then I got lazy, and I still took videos of every pull-up that I did, but I didn't upload the last 200 or so. But because, like, you know, it's kind of I did that experiment publicly, kind of as a commitment device in a way. I wanted to show myself that I could do it, and I kind of wanted to share it with my friends a little bit, kind of as a way of keeping myself accountable, I guess. And I have a thread on Twitter about it where I posted, you know, when I did 100, when I did like 500, and so on. And the funny thing is, so I vaguely planned to finish it in a year, but I didn't. It took me 13 months, so I finished it in January this year. And again, I feel much stronger than I was a year and a half ago. And it feels good to know that I had set out to do 1,000 pull-ups in total, and I did it. So like, it's a moderately large project. Like, you can't do 1,000 pull-ups in a day, or unless you're already very fit, you can't do it in a week. Like, what's 1,000 pull-ups in a week? That's like 170 pull-ups a day, maybe. Yeah, I can't do that. I still can't do that. I could now do maybe 30 a day. I think 10 sets of 3. Yeah, I could do that, or like 5 sets of whatever. The point is that doing these kind of mid-sized projects are an incredible way to build confidence, an incredible way to develop your competence. And there are a bunch of people who have done things like this. I know there was a lady who did like I think a year of code or something like that, where every day she would make a different tiny website. And again, there's something about these things where just quantity, doing anything repeatedly at volume is gonna be interesting, right? So I think a thing that happens pretty often, so I often get people DMing me, usually guys. I usually get guys DMing me, asking me things like, how do I become a better writer? How do I promote my writing? How do I, get feedback on my writing? And my first question is always, how much have you written? And the answer is usually, I've written 3 posts, I've written 15, 20 posts. And my response is always, come and talk to me again when you've done 100. And the reason for that is, it's not, it's I'm not trying to be dismissive, but I know from experience that things become more interesting once you've done 100 of them. And I've attempted versions of this elsewhere. Like, I've tried to start drawing, and I have like 15 pages of drawings, and then I kind of abandoned it. But I do have 15 pages of drawings. So if I decide to pick that up again, if let's say next year I decide that 2021 is going to be the year of drawings, I don't have to start at 0. I get to start at 16. I think that counts, And it's just this idea of, when you build this body of work, there's continuity, there's a history. You can do callbacks to the earlier parts of that history. And it turns this kind of abstract, vague, kind of unknown thing into a concrete, developing thing. And anybody who does anything, well, I don't know if it's 100 times is always interesting, but anybody who's done anything 1,000 times is definitely interesting. Whether it's, I've made 1,000 origami boats, right? Or I've made 1,000 omelettes. If you have photos of the 1,000 omelettes that you make, you'll be surprised once you've taken like 200 photos of omelettes, you start thinking, I'm taking photos every day. It looks kind of the same. Like, what if I presented the omelette a bit better? What if I got better lighting? What if I got a better camera? So I am doing this right now with my YouTube videos. So this is the 20th video that I'm making this year. One of the things I learned is that I should have better lighting for my videos, right? So I used to have my computer set up where my computer usually is, and the lighting there is not that good. I'm doing this video at night because it's nighttime, but like I'm making it a point to do these videos in the morning so that the sunlight is coming in through the window onto my face. I bought this mic. I'm gonna be buying a better video camera so that I have like a high definition video. And there's just all these things that you learn that you have to learn from experience, So like my previous video that I did, I fucked something up and the audio was bad. And so now I had a reason to learn a bit about audio. I'm like, okay, what exactly is going wrong with the audio? Is it clipping? Why is it making that weird sound? Is it the CPU of my computer? Am I speaking too closely to the mic? It's like there's so many. Like, I'm learning about all of the things that go into making a video. I'm learning it along the way. It's impossible to learn all of these things in advance. If I had to learn all of these things before I got started, I would never get started, right? So again, I'm now at video number 20. This is video number 20 of 100 videos that I plan to do this year. And like at first I just said 100 videos in general. I have one video essay, I have a bunch of book reviews, and these are ad-libs. And so it took me maybe 10 videos to realize that I think ad-libs are probably the best video I could be making in terms of how much time and effort it takes me, because I can just start recording, start talking, and I start talking for about 30 minutes, and it takes me 30 minutes of effort, and then I listen to the video, I watch the video at 2x speed, so it takes me another 20 minutes or so to do the timestamps, and I do the timestamps for my own reference, for my own future reference in my own notes. But the point is that give me a second. The point is that doing this thing over and over again is making me, I'm learning, right? I'm learning a lot. I'm learning about how I get to watch my old videos. I have this funny tweet where I put up like, so I have 3 monitors, my laptop and 2 separate monitors, and I put like I think 6 different videos of my YouTube videos all on the screens, and I've sped them all up to 2x speed, and I get to witness like my hand gestures and my face and all the things that I do in my videos. And it felt like a study. It felt like I was learning about myself. I was learning about my posture. I was learning about the way I sit, the way I look at the camera, the way I tilt my head, the way my voice inflections go up and down, how high I speak, how quickly I speak, how slowly I speak. And again, like, you can't really study these things in a static state. You can only kind of study them in a dynamic state. Like you have to be moving. You learn as you go, right? And yeah, so I hope that my talking about my word vomits and my pull-ups and my YouTube videos kind of already by themselves kind of demonstrate a very simple model for thinking about how to do things. So it could be, you could be picking up a new language, you could be wanting to read 100 books and do 100 reviews. The point is that I have to design these things in a way such that I design with failure in mind, because again, I have years of life experience where I tried to do something, I'm gonna run every day for a month, or run every 3rd day for a month, and then like 2 weeks in I kind of stop, and then I fail and I feel bad about myself, and I feel like, oh, I can't do this, and then that's the end of that project, right? And I feel bad about it, but the real problem wasn't my discipline or willpower. The real problem was that the project wasn't well defined. Like, introducing a new habit indefinitely for someone like me with ADHD, who kind of probably has some kind of dopamine deficiency. I don't know the like precise brain science about it, but the point is, I can't motivate myself to do something indefinitely without like reward, without a sense of completion, without a sense of structure. And so the cool thing is, while my 1,000 pull-up challenge has been completed, I still do pull-ups every day now. And I no longer record them on video. So I used to record every single pull-up on video, which was slightly tedious and annoying. So now I just do it without recording. And now, having done 1,000 pull-ups, I can now do them so easily that it's fun. And I can feel my shoulders kind of getting, they're getting stronger. I don't want to flex in front of my camera yet, but like I feel myself getting stronger. I feel myself getting fitter. And it's a good feeling. My wife likes it. Just same is true with my videos. So, having made 19 videos and this is my 20th video, I now feel excited about the next 80 videos that I'm going to make. And, I don't like setting, I'm going to publish every X days, or every Tuesday, whatever. Like, I'm just doing an ad-lib every day. And it feels good because I can post it on Twitter and I can post it, I have subscribers now. I have people who comment on my videos. So I am pretty blessed and lucky in the sense that I do have an existing audience, so that, when I post something new, there's a pre-existing audience. So for me, I find that motivating. Like, I get feedback from people who are interested in kind of witnessing my progress. Like, one of the things that motivates me is I want to be able to help other people. So sometimes when I don't feel like doing something, I can push myself to do it by reminding myself that if I do it, I will be able to motivate other people. Like, I have this thread on Twitter, which is like, every time I meet a friend for coffee or lunch or dinner, I take a photo of like the food, and then I do a tweet about what we talked about. So like, after we're done with the conversation, I write down in a tweet like all the topics of what we talked about, and I add them if they're on Twitter. And so what happens is I now have a thread with like, I think maybe 60 people that I've met. And when somebody suggests meeting up with me, and I kind of feel like, it would be nice, but I'm so lazy. I'd rather stay at home and play, Witcher on PlayStation. I then remind myself, hey, I get to add to the thread if we hang out, right? And that sounds, I get that can sound kind of utilitarian or kind of, I don't know, slightly manipulative maybe, but it's just, I get to add to the thread. It's like, I think some people might do it like I get to post an Instagram story or whatever, right? The point is that the structure that I have created, so effectively I have a meet friends project, right? And in this case, I don't have a fixed number of people that I want to meet, but it will be nice to see when that thread reaches 100 people, and I'll be like, hey, I've met 100 friends from the internet for lunch or dinner, and I get to show that off to people, and then people have already told me that they see my thread and they like it and they like the idea of it, and I've had friends start their own threads of friend meetups, which is amazing because so now that thing is like catching on, right? And there are other projects like this, I think Karen X Cheng has this thing where she danced every day for a year, and she made like a YouTube video of what happens when you try to dance every day for a year. There's a bunch of people who do projects like that, like do something every day for a year, or do something 100 times or 1,000 times, and like I have been repeatedly tweeted, do this thing 100 times, like get rejected by dates 100 times, whatever it is, paint 100 pictures, and when you're done with 100, do 100 more. Like just each body of work that you create is yours. It's something you've accomplished. It's something you can be proud of. Like even if I make 100 videos and I feel like, YouTube's not really for me, it's not really working out, I'm not really feeling it, I'm not really getting any subscribers, not really getting any comments, I'm done, I don't like it, I'm gonna move on to something else. That's fine. And I have this story, right? I have this story of, hey, I tried this thing 100 times. This is what I learned. This is what I liked. This is what I didn't like. This is what surprised me. I could write an essay about it, potentially. I could give a talk about it, potentially. Even if it doesn't work out. And I expect YouTube to work out. So, because it's already, being pretty amazing for me so far. Right? And so that's what, to me, project management is about. It's about framing. It's about... Oh, I got to do a video about framing. But yeah, it's about how you frame what you do in a way that, kind of has a structure to it, has a story to it, you feel a sense of growth. And I think I inherited this idea kind of from video games. Like, video games are fun because the game does the dirty work of the project management for you. The game tells you how much experience you get when you kill a monster. The game tells you how much the next weapon's gonna cost and how much work you have to do to get to that weapon. The game tells you, what it shows you your skill tree and like what new skills you can develop. It draws that all out for you very clearly. And I mean, the thing about the game world is that the rewards are very predictable and reliable, although games also learn to use like variable rewards and like unique weapons and like kind of exciting drops that make you excited to try again and again. But like fundamentally, games are great because they provide that structure for you. And I've sometimes said that I think kids who learn music or learn sports, like or learn dance, like just picking up some kind of practice is it can be a wonderful thing. I mean, assuming it isn't like a terrible learning environment and that's abusive and stuff, it can be wonderful because they learn from experience that, like learning the piano or whatever, learning the guitar, that you can suck at something, you can struggle with something and be unable to do it. And then you keep at it and you do it again and again and again, like every day for weeks and weeks. And then you find that, hey, now I can actually press the chords down and there's a sound. Like last week, there was no sound. Now there is a sound. And then you can change the chord and, oh, this chord sounds nice too. And like I couldn't change the chords before. Like my fingers were too, they weren't moving the way I wanted them to. It took a long time. And now I can change my chords very quickly and nicely. And that sense of progress, that sense of learning stays with you. In like at a meta sense, you realize that, oh, if I can do this when I, if today I can only do this, but a week later I can do this, you realize that that likely applies to almost everything. So, like for me, I used to have limiting beliefs about how much I could squat. Like I'm tall and skinny, and I was intimidated by the squat rack in the gym, and I didn't want to change for me to go and do squats at a public gym, I have to like squeeze in sets between somebody else, and then I got to ask, hey, do you guys mind if I adjust the rack higher up? And I was just embarrassed and ashamed, and nobody guided me through that stuff. And so I always had a weak lower body strength, and I just had a limiting belief of, I'll never be able to squat very much. Like I'm just this tall, skinny guy. And then Eventually I got sick of having that be a part of my narrative, and so I bought a squat rack and I squatted as much as I could, repeatedly as much as I could. And eventually I remember once I squatted, I believe 90 kg, which is like I don't know how many pounds that is, but like it's more than my body weight. So I was weighing like 80 or 85 kg at the time. And just the experience of squatting more than my body weight, it felt it felt magical. I think I wanted to cry, because it made me realize that I can do things that I could not do before. And it made me look at my whole life differently, because somewhere along the line, as a teenager or like in my mid-20s, I just came to think that there are things that I can do and there are things that I can't do. Right, and the things that I can do, I'm not that great at them, so I got to like strategize. Like you start operating in this kind of scarcity mindset, when in fact there's growth possible. You can learn to dance, you can learn to code, you can learn almost anything. Like yeah, you probably can't become an Olympic athlete in your 30s, sure, but you can get stronger, you can get more skilled, you have no idea how much you can improve. There's this amazing video on YouTube of this guy who was injured, and his doctors told him that he would never be able to walk again, and he did yoga for months and months, I think over a year, until he could run. And just don't limit yourself. And the thing that I feel compelled to make these videos is because I am not a naturally successful guy. I'm not a naturally productive guy. I struggled very hard. Like I was, I could never do my homework. I could never do things on time. I could never wake up on time, go to meetings on time. I struggled with all of that. And, it just seemed rational for me to believe that I wouldn't be able to do something I hadn't done before. Like it's just logic, right? Like if you've never been able to do something before, why would you be able to do it tomorrow? Like if a friend is always late, why will he be on time tomorrow? You're not gonna bet on something being, I think there's a quote attributed to Einstein that's like, insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. That's true. And I felt depressed thinking about how like the shit in my life was gonna just define my life. But it's not entirely true. There's a crack, and that's where the light gets in, right? As Leonard Cohen says, like things can change. In fact, change is basically inevitable, right? And I've come to realize that, as wooey as it sounds, a big part of why things don't change is that we decide that they cannot change. And I know this is true for, like relationships, old friendships, marriages. People fall into stale patterns and routines, and they each have the expectation that everybody else expects them to be the same. So it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where you think you can't do something, and therefore you do not open yourself up to the opportunity or the possibility of anything different, and then that just becomes this self-reinforcing cycle. So how do you get out of that? How do you go from not being able to squat anything to being able to squat in your body weight? And the answer is really simple. It's you just do a little bit more, just a little bit more. So I could, so like when I started, I was squatting just the bar, and like my form was bad, right? So my plan was, okay, like I'm a guy, I served in the military, I can surely do 10 squats with 20 kg, which is just the bar, and then I go down and come up. And like I'm going down a little bit shaky. I'm sure I can get down and up in a smooth and nice way, like a child, right? And so I did that until I could. And then you put on like little baby plates, like 2.5 kg plates on each side. So that's 5 kg more. And that's from 20 kg to 25 kg. That's a freaking 25% increase, right? That's and it feels like 25 kg is not a lot of weight, and so there's some kind of, I think there's some kind of something about the mind that for me at least, for people who do like catastrophic thinking and pessimistic thinking, there's this sense that small progress, what does it matter? What does it count? Like it's just a little bit. But like really big changes are made up of small changes repeatedly over and over again. So you just have to, and even if even if you fail, even if you try to change your habits, or you start lifting and then you fall off the wagon, like you can then decide whether that means you're a failure or whether that means you just have one more data point to study and examine regarding how exactly you failed and how you're going to learn from that and do better the next time around. And I guess I'm just here to say that, like, you don't know your own potential. You don't know what you're capable of. I don't know what I'm capable of, right? We can all become so much more than we think. Most of us are bad project managers, and we may think that we need more motivation, or we need more discipline, or we need more some kind of divine grace, but really very often it just needs a little bit of self-kindness, a little bit of optimism, a little bit of, and some slightly better project management. So all the best if you guys are working on things that you want to get better at. Feel free to comment and tell me what you're working on, and you can find, if y'all do it together, you can make friends with each other and support each other on your projects and challenge each other to kind of keep going. It's fun to I have learned that for me, doing things in public has been a great way to make friends. I love supporting other people. I love being supported by other people. I love kind of if I'm doing something just for me, I'm like, what's the point? I'm not that important. I don't, halfway through, and the first time I'm struggling, I'm like, is this just about my ego? Am I just trying to work out so that I can feel good about myself and be more attractive, and all these kind of very mundane, superficial things? And how I'm currently framing it is, I have a quote for myself which is, I got to lift so I can get swole, so I can uplift the men's, right? Because like right now, the people who are watching these videos, they are, they're willing to take a chance on some guy that they might not know, or just, some rent. Like, y'all are very compassionate and loving, and I appreciate that. But I do know that for my long-term goal of, getting involved in like mainstream masculine discourse, there are things when you want to persuade other men, like you have to, men respect other men who are fit, And so I now frame my motivation for lifting and working out as, I got to get fit so that I will be persuasive to the guys who need to hear what I have to say but wouldn't listen if they dismiss me because I was skinny, right? And I'm less skinny than I used to be, and I feel pretty good about myself, but I'm gonna just keep lifting, and I'm gonna keep making videos. And I just I remember how much despair I felt 5 years ago, that I was in my mid-20s and I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, and everything I did seemed to fail. And on retrospect, those failures were not all bad. It's they were failures, which sucks, but as long as you keep persisting and you can reflect on your past failures, you will learn, and you will learn like no experience is truly wasted if you reflect on it and learn from it. And that itself is a kind of conceptualization of your whole life as a project, as a project of learning and discovery and expression and all that good stuff, So I wish you guys the best, and I'm gonna end this here. Good night. Done.